a dream. My four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man?
Have you ever wondered why Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, two leaders fighting for the same cause, had such different approaches? These two men, both icons of the civil rights movement, pursued the same goal: racial equality. Despite their common objective, their methods and philosophies couldn't have been more diverse. Martin Luther King Jr., a Baptist minister, advocated for peaceful protests and civil disobedience, believing in the power of love to conquer hate. On the other hand, Malcolm X, a Muslim minister, championed the philosophy of black nationalism, arguing for racial pride, self-reliance, and self-defense. Their contrasting approaches to civil rights were shaped by their unique backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives. But even as they diverged in their methods, they both left indelible marks on the fight for racial equality. So let's delve into their backgrounds to understand what shaped these two remarkable men. Born into different worlds, King and X's early experiences significantly shaped their philosophies. Martin Luther King Jr. was born in Atlanta, Georgia, into a family deeply rooted in the Baptist Church. His father and grandfather were both Baptist preachers and civil rights activists, and their influence was a significant factor in King's path. King's early education was steeped in the teachings of Christianity, which shaped his philosophy of nonviolence. He was an exceptional student, skipping 2 grades and entering Morehouse College at 15. Here, he was introduced to the writings of Henry David Thoreau and Mahatma Gandhi. Their teachings on civil disobedience and nonviolent resistance resonated deeply with King, solidifying his commitment to these principles in his fight for civil rights. In stark contrast, Malcolm X, originally named Malcolm Little, was born in Omaha, Nebraska. His family was targeted by white supremacist groups, and when he was just 6, his father was murdered, an event Malcolm attributed to these groups. His mother was institutionalized when he was 13, and he ended up in foster care. These early experiences of violence and injustice fueled his anger and skepticism towards white society. Unlike King, Malcolm X did not have the opportunity for a formal education. His enlightenment came from his time in prison, where he converted to the Nation of Islam, an organization promoting black self-reliance and resistance against white oppression. His new faith and the teachings of the group's leader, Elijah Muhammad, significantly influenced his philosophy of black nationalism and self-defense. These early influences set the stage for their distinct approaches to the fight for racial equality. Martin Luther King Jr. passionately believed in non-violent resistance and civil disobedience. He was inspired by the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi and Jesus Christ, preaching love and kindness as the ultimate weapons against hatred and bigotry. His dream was of a colorblind society where people were judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. On the other hand, Malcolm X advocated for black nationalism and separatism, arguing that African Americans could only achieve true freedom and equality by establishing their own state. He believed in self-defense and did not rule out the use of violence if necessary. His ideology was shaped by his experiences with racism and his time with the Nation of Islam. These contrasting philosophies, non-violence versus militancy, integration versus separatism, shaped their strategies in the fight for racial equality. These philosophies directly influenced how they were perceived by the public. Both leaders had a significant media presence which shaped their public perception. Martin Luther King Jr. was often portrayed as a peaceful, non-violent leader advocating for desegregation and equality. His "I Have a Dream" speech, delivered from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, was broadcast throughout the world, amplifying his vision of a colorblind society. On the other hand, Malcolm X was painted by the media as a militant leader advocating for black nationalism and separatism. His fiery speeches challenging the status quo were often met with fear and trepidation by the mainstream media, which in turn influenced his public perception. However, it's essential to remember that media portrayals are not always a mirror of reality. They are often influenced by the socio-political climate of the times and the biases of those controlling the narrative. But as time went on, both men began to evolve in their perspectives. Time, experience, and changing social landscapes led both leaders to evolve in their ideologies. Martin Luther King Jr., while steadfast in his commitment to nonviolence, began to address broader issues of poverty and the Vietnam War, realizing that racial justice was intertwined with economic and international peace. Meanwhile, Malcolm X underwent a significant transformation following his pilgrimage to Mecca, where he observed Muslims of diverse racial backgrounds living in harmony. This led him to soften his separatist stance and adopt a more inclusive inclusive outlook on race relations, albeit still firmly grounded in black pride and self-determination. Both leaders' shifts were influenced by the changing dynamics of the civil rights movement, the evolving global context, and personal introspection. They navigated these changes while maintaining an unwavering commitment to the cause of racial equality. These changes, however, did not diminish their impact. Though their lives were tragically cut short, their legacies live on. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, two titans of the civil rights movement, left an indelible mark on history and society. Martin Luther King Jr., the eloquent preacher and advocate for nonviolent resistance, has become a symbol of peace and unity. His pivotal role in the Montgomery bus boycott, his leadership in the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, his inspiring "I Have a Dream" speech at the March on Washington, and his tireless advocacy for civil rights legislation have all significantly contributed to shaping a more equitable society. His message of love and equality resonates even today, in the form of annual commemorations and a national holiday in his honor. On the other hand, Malcolm X, the fiery orator and proponent of black empowerment, played a crucial role in shaping the identity of African Americans. His advocacy for black nationalism and self-defense struck a chord with those disillusioned with the slow pace of progress. His teachings as a key leader in the Nation of Islam emphasized the importance of self-reliance, self-respect, and the assertion of black identity. Malcolm X's influence can be seen in the emergence of the Black Power movement and ongoing conversations about racial identity and empowerment. Despite their differing philosophies, both men were instrumental in challenging the status quo and pushing for change. They awakened a sense of pride and a demand for justice among African Americans, and their messages continue to resonate with those who strive for equality and justice. In their death, they became larger-than-life figures, symbols of a struggle that continues to this day. Their speeches are still quoted, their philosophies still studied, and their influence still felt in numerous aspects of American life and beyond. Their legacies continue to inspire and challenge us today. Their courage, their conviction, and their commitment to justice remain a testament to their enduring impact on the world. As we look back, we must also look forward. During the civil rights movement, both King's nonviolent resistance and Malcolm X's militant self-defense had their merits and were accepted by different sectors of society. Yet, it was King's philosophy that arguably saw more acceptance, largely due to its peaceful approach and the media's portrayal. Fast forward to today, and we find ourselves in a world still grappling with issues of race and inequality. One can only speculate how King and Malcolm X might view this. Perhaps they would acknowledge the strides we've made, but also the work that remains. To uphold their ideals in this modern world, we must continue to challenge racism and strive for equality. We must remember their teachings, their courage, and their unwavering commitment to justice. Their teachings serve as a reminder that the fight for equality is far from over.
Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. For it isn't by signs that you win or you fail. Be the best of whatever you are. If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But by all means, keep moving.